Good evening. Call the meeting of the Arundel Planning Board, November 9th, 2017 to order. We will start with a roll call.
Marty Kane.
Roger Moore,
James Lowry.
Tom McGinn.
Jens Bergen.
Tad Redway, planner.
So we'll run down through the items on the agenda. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. Number 2, approval of minutes. Listed August 10th, 2017, August 26th, 2017. We have 1, potentially 2 pending applications.
It's all depends, well, they're not gonna be able to be here tonight,
Oh, they're not?
no.
Okay.
The only issue would be, I mean, you can put it on the agenda, we could discuss it without them there, or else we could do it on other business, it's up to you, but they couldn't make the.
Let's do it as other business since they're not here. That works. So 1 pending application, Lyman Farm Road, private way application. And 3 land use ordinance revision topics. First, technical and financial capacity is approved by is approval criteria in the site plan and conditional use applications. Discussion, second item is discussion of proposed landscaping and buffering amendments. And item 3 is in the subdivision regulations, application fees to be determined periodically by the Board of Selectmen. And then our last item will be other business. Any comments or
I'll make a
modifications?
motion with one suggestion of if we could move the minutes to the end, because we just got them, rather than hold up the applicants.
Okay.
I would second that.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor? Any
Yeah.
discussion, excuse me?
Yeah, on the October 26th meeting, is there enough of attendance to pass it?
Oh, who's
2,
We had
3.
full house,
I was not at
you were the only
that
one who wasn't here,
meeting.
but you had 4.
1.
Yeah.
We've got 3 of the 5 at the meeting.
1, 2, 3.
the majority quorum of those who were there, is there?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
Is that legitimate, Tad?
We have 3 of 6 that were there. So about half the
Yeah.
board members that were there.
3 of
3 of 6?
3 of
3 of
5.
5.
3 of
Yeah,
5.
the last one.
3 of 5
2,
were okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
3 of 5 were
fine.
okay, 3 of 6 were
Alright.
not
so
okay.
we will, did we have a vote? Oh,
Yeah,
let's
we
go,
did.
all in favor, everybody?
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
everybody's good? So we will move that to just before other business and take that up then. Hey, so the first item will be Lyman Farm Road, private way application, proposal to upgrade a driveway serving 2 existing lots to a private way serving 3 lots and an 18-acre parcel at 278 Thompson Road, tax map 20 lot 11G in the R4 district. Chad Moorside is the owner and applicant. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. My question, since I was not in attendance at the last meeting, was Tad was there, any discussion?
Yes, the action was made by the planning board to grant a waiver for the 50-foot right-of-way, provided that all the improvements could be done within an existing 25-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
So the waiver was granted in this situation.
Was there any determination about, no, I'm thinking of a different project.
So where we are now is the applicant is going to, is submitting the formal private way application now. Which
Okay.
he had engineering done pretty much
Right.
for many things on that. And so he's submitting it now. The only thing he forgot to do was give me money.
Right, I was trying to get there this week, I
I
didn't
know
get
you-
it to
I
you
know you
tonight, or whatever.
I think the storm has thrown everybody's schedule off.
So has that application been submitted?
That was the original application you
Okay,
received.
that's
It was pretty
right.
much a complete application except for a few items. In it was a request for a waiver on the stormwater
Yep.
management plan. And the applicant's gonna do some cost estimates. We don't have those yet. And the fee, the applicant's been unable to get in to pay that, but I didn't think we could hold that up for tonight because I think the applicant will be paying that fee.
Okay.
Before we can proceed. So given that, now, the big hurdle was, if he didn't get the waiver, then would make no sense to continue, because he couldn't meet the standards.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so it appears that the board action items, number one would be to address the request for a waiver of the stormwater management plan. Any, what's your, sort of take on why that should be waived?
I didn't know nothing about waiving stormwater.
Your engineer had put that down on a request for waiver on the application.
No, I didn't know
Did
nothing.
you know that?
No.
Okay, because he didn't do a stormwater management plan.
Oh,
So
No.
that's kind of a hole in the application that we have.
no. Just that it's gonna be drained and dished with culverts, and that it's fairly flat and at a slope that it's gonna drain into the, pre-man-made ditching that's on the plan. I don't have my plan with me, cause I just rolled in here, but it's gonna drain into the man-made ditching that's already in the property down by where the pole line is,
Right, it's on the right-hand side.
on the right-hand side, correct?
Yeah, you have I believe, a drainage easement.
Yes.
And you have a utility easement also.
That-
That hasn't been recorded in Alfred yet, right? The utility
Yes,
easement?
it has,
Oh, it has?
yes,
I'll need a copy of that. That was not included in the packet.
yeah, that's been recorded.
Okay, good.
So, I'm just curious, it looks like there's 35-foot and 40-foot drop from one end to the other, is that true? I'm looking at the cross-section here, profile.
That's exaggerated.
Well, but 190 to 150,
Yeah.
so going by
Oh,
the
yeah, okay.
numbers. Yeah, actually only probably 4 inches on here. But, so, I'm just curious, like, there will be some water flow there. You have to, I'd like to see some stormwater, maybe not the entire parcel, because it's only gonna be focused on the road. That's where your own road work is gonna be along the road,
Right.
because it's such a tight fit. I'd be concerned if it was 50-foot right away, to be enough for if there were water flow issues, it wouldn't affect the neighbor's property, but I'd be a little concerned about that spilling over, and I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
No, I agree with you, I think because of, not as much the tightness, because, you're getting the roads and ditches in, but just the proximity to other, neighbors, it's, in other applications where we've done a waiver, it has been, essentially cutting a new road within an existing parcel, in the middle of somebody's parcel, and
Yeah,
and
they
we
control
may have
it.
had some flexibility there, but I'm concerned with the proximity to other, abutting, properties and, residences, that we would,
And you got the house on
we
the
wouldn't
left.
be doing our due diligence if we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't the topography, which is perpendicular to the axis of the road,
Yeah.
suggest that the flow is gonna be,
It is.
Yep.
okay, and wouldn't that mitigate against the need for,
Except for where the existing building is it Buco?
It's good.
Where there would be about a third, halfway down, so there is quite a bit of flow already. Probably, might be,
Right after Bucos, there is already the drainage, as when we did our sidewalk. After Bucos driveway,
yeah,
he had already done some of the ditching along the way,
so.
when we were at sidewalk. I don't know if you were there or
No, I
not, Tom.
wasn't there, so,
I mean, the rest of us were there at sidewalk.
Well, if it, how do
I mean,
you?
Jamie, how do you recall it?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Right after his driveway,
I
because
think
that's
in
the,
general, you know, the design would lend itself, as Jen said, to convey through a ditch down beyond some of the parcels.
right.
But I think it's important to then understand what's going to occur if there's any spots along that where they have a, you know, a ditch turnout that would go out onto another, you know, potentially another property, or, you know, close proximity to another property where it would, you know, stormwater would then flow through onto in a butters.
I mean,
So-
Don't
right
we also
after
have
Bucco.
that small brook
Mhm.
on that left side as you're going down? Okay, and that's cutting through Chad's and the Bucco's lot, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's on the map, though.
It's not, I don't see it on the map.
I don't see it on the map either, except down there.
We clearly see we clearly saw it when we did our sidewalk.
Right.
Is that on the right side or the left-hand
It's
side?
on the left.
Left-hand side.
Left-hand side going down.
On Bucco's side.
Yes. North side.
Well, right after Bucco, applicant owns the property, correct?
On the left
Left-hand side.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's still on his property that we're speaking of,
Correct.
which was part of a staging yard, correct?
Yeah, we.
I mean, it's on sidewalk, I mean, I'm referring to.
Yeah, the staging area we saw was basically where the hammerhead's gonna be, right?
Pretty much, just
Yeah.
just a little bit
Yep.
further down from where you guys parked would be where the hammerhead is. But the plan is that all that water is going to be down to my property. I mean, there's no plans of any water staying up there, like Buco's property, up until I put the road in with the ditch, was soaked all this year. I put the ditch in, his property is completely dried right up. I mean, that, if you go just off the driveway onto his lawn, there used to be a swamp there, and he's mowed it all year long, you know. The whole plan is, in coming down the driveway leading up to his house, is to put a ditch and then a culvert to take it back to the right side, so that it all dumps down into my property, and there's the existing man-made ditch around that gravel pit. There's one that comes down the power line and then runs down the side of the road.
That all sounds great, it makes sense to me, but I guess it is the plan you just described,
It should show on the
it should
plan.
show on the plan, you know, I think you already, and your engineer probably already knows what needs to be done, you would just lay it out on the plan. Because otherwise, if it's not on the plan, it could be something else, and say, well,
I
we
mean,
never said you had to do it.
I know nothing about them plans,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
them look
I'm curious
forward to me.
why he asked for the waiver, do you
And-
know, Tad,
Sorry?
why he asked for the waiver on this? Just
He gave no reason. There was no reason given.
Right, and that's what I was just reviewing the application and didn't see anything
There was no-
that, you know, even a
for it.
paragraph saying
Reason.
based on this or that. And, you know, I certainly understand that you've got a portion of the road is already sort of in place. You're gonna be going off of another portion. You know, I think a good place for Paul to start would be a general overview assessment of what the impacts are within the grand scheme of the watershed, so to speak, and how, you know, to make an argument that it would have a minimal impact and then request a waiver from doing the 2, 10, 25-year storm calculations, which is, you know, a little more of an intensive, process, and, you know, would then be time-consuming and costly.
Right.
Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Can you, I mean, is that something you can communicate to
Yeah,
Paul?
I can, I mean,
I think,
our concern is the accumulation of water down below, where's it going?
right,
You know, the drainage ditch is off the property, so,
Yep.
you know, the issue is, are you pushing everything off there? Is it gonna be channelized there, or are you gonna spread it onto there?
Right.
So, you know, I think that's really the fundamental issue, because we have a long run.
exactly, I mean,
Yeah.
and,
The
you know,
drainage ditch comes back onto my property.
Right, but where you're shedding off, it's on Mike's property.
No.
It
Oh,
shows it on here. That's the way Paul's got it designed. Just in case you know, it's, the big map matters more than, the little map hides too much. You gotta look at the big map. But it shows in blue line, the drainage ditch is off your property. And it does, you're right, it does go back on, but where you're shedding it at the curve there, it's, the ditch is very difficult to see. I mean,
right, because it's like,
it's real tight. It's real difficult to see the ditch in your right of way on this. So, at the end of the cul-de-sac, where he's gonna, or at the end of the cul-de-sac, the end of the hammerhead, it looks like it's just gonna discharge off in the end, but he doesn't have a level spreader or anything there, so we don't know what happens at the end. Just dump it onto your land there and concentrated format. I don't think that's such a great idea. So we need to know what treatment is, how much is gonna be running down there.
right,
Because the watershed he's gonna be looking at, considering that, as Jens points out, pretty much the whole abutting topography, it's not gonna be a collector for other lots. Everything is running downhill in where the water drops on the landscape. So it's not gonna collect runoff from anybody else, so the runoff is basically gonna be on the road, pretty much on the road itself. And maybe that's his argument. Fine, make the argument.
right. And I think that's what I have a little bit of the difficulty doing a waiver on that, because there's been no argument, so to speak, no documentation to say, this is why we feel that a waiver is justified. Does that make sense?
yeah, sure. If I can recall any of our conversation with him, is that there was no reason for storm drainage, because it all went down to my property and it hits that brook. You know, that comes back across. If you guys would have walked down further, you would have seen where it could have never made it to anywhere else. It runs into the drainage ditch before it goes anywhere else, you know what I mean? Like,
That's probably the problem you're confronting is,
Right.
we can't see that, either on this thing or,
And the narrative of that, you know, by Paul, with his,
Yeah.
you know, his PE stamp that says, hey, these are the conditions, you know, this is why, in his professional judgment, he doesn't feel that there are gonna be any negative impacts on abutting property. We get that from him and we move forward.
I'll, you know,
Yeah.
we can discuss it with him, but you guys were all there and seen it and agreed that day that nobody brought up any issues of any storm drainage that day that we were there on the sidewalk, you know what I mean? Like, it all runs slowly downhill, you know, with bare woods on the other side. It's not going into somebody's front lawn. It's not going, you know, you guys seen the property. That's what it says on paper, and I know you guys need it on paper, but, on the real sidewalk, like, you guys seen that it was,
So as a board, do we have a motion, one way or the other, on this?
I think we need a motion to allow the waiver, to grant the waiver.
But with
I'll make that
explanation
motion.
first.
Well, it is required.
So
It
you're not
is
gonna, we're not
required.
gonna grant the waiver, we
Yeah,
want
if
it.
we don't grant it, then, if we don't grant the waiver, then it still is required.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, but we need an explanation.
Right, from Paul,
That-
I think,
that-
if
that-
Paul was here, he could probably explain it,
Right.
but we're,
But it's, there's no show and
Paul's
tell.
been here with me the last 2 times
yeah,
I
he's
came
here
here.
most of the time.
You know,
I think, I would say we don't need to waive the, motion because
We're not doing it yet.
we're not,
We're not
we're
doing a
not
waiver,
granting the waiver.
because we need an
Okay.
explanation.
Yeah, we don't need a motion if someone wanted to
All right.
grant the waiver.
So if the applicant was to appear on the next agenda, with the explanation from Paul provided to us, be in a better position to move on a waiver at that time, right?
Correct.
Could.
Right. Either move on a waiver or deem whatever Paul prepares sufficient for the stormwater management portion of the submission, sufficient for the submission.
And it seems to me he might be able to just add it to the plan as easily as writing up his justification.
Well, this is so small, you could
Yeah.
almost you almost could do a rational method on this.
Oh, you could do,
I mean,
Right.
You don't have to do a hydrocat on this, it's such an incredibly small
Yeah,
watershed.
and most of it's already there, it's just that needs some notes maybe.
Dot our i's and cross our
Rip
t's.
wrap or whatever, where the culverts are, we
Yeah.
can't see all that.
Do the
Okay.
rational method in 15 minutes.
So in, Ted, in your notes, you have the 8 items, we'll run down through them.
Yep.
Real quick, cross-section, needs to be modified to be in compliance. Has that been communicated to the engineer?
No, we just discovered this recently.
Okay,
We pulled out the big plan instead of this little plan.
yep,
Big plan makes a big difference, you can read things a lot better.
That's in the other truck.
The big plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
mine.
Well, the issue is really that if you look at the cross-section, it's really built on a 15-foot road instead of the 18-foot road.
mhm,
Remember, the 15-foot road is for 2 lots and 18 is for 3 lots. 2-foot shoulders in an 18, 1-foot shoulder in a 15. So the grading on this whole plan has been done based on a 15-foot road. So the ditch is in the right-of-way, but the problem is unless, it's not gonna work if you do go out to an 18-foot. Not without making some changes.
right,
And
Right.
that's what resonates throughout the whole, all
yep,
those.
all
those
the
issues.
comments,
Yeah.
all right.
And from, you know, I was telling Chad that, and I think if you really look at that profile, there's some additional, there's more fill in there than may be necessary. If you look at the gradient there,
Mhm.
I'm not sure why, I see that he's creating a landing pad, going from 6% to, or almost 6% to 2%.
Yeah.
Just to make it safer. And then dropping off again, so it's sort of like coming down and then dropping off to the hammerhead. But I wonder if you stayed pretty close to grade there, you could probably keep this thing all within that.
But ultimately, the section that Paul has used needs to be widened,
Yeah.
and then he's gotta figure out how to get it fit into the existing
Right.
property.
Now, he can go
Okay.
in, for fill slopes, if you did fill slopes, you still can do a 2-to-1 slope for a fill if he
Yep.
armors it.
Right. Yep.
So, but
So-
you've got some sections in there, especially near the bottom, where you've got a 3-foot fill, and that means even at a 2-to-1 slope, you're coming out 6 feet on either side.
Right. Okay, so that will be communicated to him,
Yes.
all right? You
Well, I
got-
communicated to to the applicant. I'm sure you'll choose to communicate it to your
Well, I
engineer.
mean, well,
I'll be happy to do that if you would like me
any
to do
sort
that.
of, I mean, I would think that, you know, as sort of design review comments,
Yeah.
they would go back to the engineer for his, rework.
Explanation.
Chad's been the
Yep.
agent on his own project, though, that's why
Oh, okay,
I sent it to the agent.
so,
So I'll be happy to send it to Paul if you want me to.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll.
That way, it gets worded the right way to get it.
right,
Yeah.
And, I said, you said, we said. If we turn around and say, this is what, it takes the middleman out.
you've been very patient through this, so I don't wanna have a miscommunication that ends up, you know, you being in here any more meetings than you already have been,
Right,
all right?
right.
And I just, if I could just
Yep.
throw out that everything's looking great. These are just all little details that happen all the
Yeah.
time. You know, this always,
Right.
you just had that unusual situation that
Right. Right.
we're getting through.
Utility easement, did I overhear that has been, the utility easement is recorded,
Yeah,
Okay,
I just don't have a copy of it, that's all.
so. Stream location, so that could be part of the stormwater management.
Yeah, where's the stream?
another thing that I have a question about is when we did the sidewalk,
Mhm.
I think I spoke to you about it. If we weren't adding that, if I wasn't breaking that lot,
Yep,
you had said that it would just be a simple driveway for me.
I believe so, isn't that right?
It would have been it would have been a 15-foot private way. Because it would have been two lots serving that.
So you still would have had to have done a private way? Even
Yeah,
though,
because of
because of the
911.
other house that's,
The Bucol
Oh,
lot,
yeah.
Right,
that's,
which is.
the
you know,
Bucol lot, that's their access, I mean, that's
Right.
their frontage.
right,
That's their only
and
frontage.
they've got a legal right to use that, I presume.
Well,
I
see,
don't
this
know.
is- This is
Right,
where-
I don't know.
I don't know.
This is where it gets messy for me, because when they built this house,
Yeah.
this wasn't done right, and now it's being put onto me. You know, somebody
Yeah.
granted them, and it's gotta be the town, it can only be the town that granted them, they didn't have any road frontage. Now I have to give them road frontage and design and build a superhighway that's bigger than Thompson Road itself down through there. When you and I both know that I can build a great road to serve 3 houses down through there, and hold up, you know what I mean? They didn't have any road frontage whatsoever. They didn't have, and somebody let them, and if that's the case, it still should have been, they should have had to build a 2-lot private way, because it was serving my lot and theirs. And somebody let them build a driveway down through there. And when they built the driveway, the septic system that's right against the line, nobody made them move that. And unfortunately, I've already spent thousands of dollars to get a plan engineered, and that's not good, you know?
Yeah. No, I understand your frustration there.
No,
because
and
it
I
is-
can't do anything as far as building my own house until I get a 911 address.
Then
And
you gotta get,
I've been waiting, you know, through these town meetings, over and over and over, you know.
right.
It's really
So-
frustrating.
so
I know you
is
guys
there
got a
no
job to do.
private way at all to give access to the Bucco parcel? Nothing, they don't have frontage that comes around in a different location other than where they're,
Nope, I already looked into that, looked
That's-
into it out
that's,
when you first.
I'm not sure how
Yeah.
that's.
That's what he's,
Looking into my
right,
That was also, remember, that was also back when frontage was having a lot line that was facing a public street, but not necessarily abutting it.
Hmm.
when
Say
did
that
Bu,
again?
just for clarification,
Saw?
when did Bucos build?
2003.
Yeah, 2003.
Okay, so 911 was already in
Oh, yeah.
effect.
It's not 911 that was the issue. 911 gave Bucco the address of 278. But
Thompson Road.
Thompson Road, but 278 is actually your address.
Yeah,
That's the address, that's the locational address of the right of way into your property.
Right.
You know?
That's what I was getting at, because I know point blank, turning even a private way, it has serving them more than one, you'd had to have the 911.
Well, back then, apparently, they didn't enforce
In
it.
2002, I'm going at,
I know,
they did.
but these regs were, even though we reorganized them and put it in a more readable format, these are the same regs back then. The only difference was frontage, and that's where we had that whole business about frontage was, I don't know if I wanna go down that road, but that
No,
was, your
don't
front
go
lot
there.
We're
line,
off on it.
don't
your
go
front
there
lot
yet.
line was facing a town road, that was your front lot line, it wasn't land that's directly abutting a road. So you could have a road that you only hit a corner of. Tom, you remember those days?
Yeah.
All right,
Rocky Lane is a perfect example.
so then the next
You
two
can always create more problems.
More problems.
would be the cost
Like
estimate
this.
for the project and construction cost, and then the fee, the application fee.
Well, he could probably do that, cause he's already, what he spent, I mean, already, I
I
mean,
have the
Yeah.
cost estimate.
You do?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
have it with me because I'm here in my work truck right now, but,
Yeah. All
of
right,
course, you've been busy
Just
in
send
the
it.
work truck.
yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
No,
So you can send that to me or, by email it,
right.
because our email's working.
Okay.
if emails
Just
work,
bring it to you.
It doesn't,
Okay.
it works today.
And then
I'll
we
bring it to you
will,
with the check.
Okay, I won't be in tomorrow, leave it with,
Tomorrow's a holiday, so it can't imagine it's
oh,
open.
that's right, it is a holiday.
it is,
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Veterans observed,
Oh, okay.
I think.
I'll see you Monday, or whenever you come in, okay?
and then we will, get Chad on the next agenda?
Yep.
So, let's just clarify, what do I need to do right now?
The items that are basically 1 through 7 on this, that's what you need to do. So, or 1 through 8. Utility easement, give me the utility easement, Paul's gotta locate the streams, do a stormwater plan, or he
Or an
explains
explanation.
why he doesn't want a stormwater plan, cost estimates, which you've already done, the fee, and deal with the issue of the grading and the road width.
Right, so,
And change that, I mean, he's got a 15-foot, right now, if we approve this plan, the only thing you could build down there would be a 15-foot wide road, and you wouldn't be able to get your second lot.
right, so
So
we're still
why,
at that.
why approve this that way, you know? Let's get it done so you can build your lot and subdivide the other one. Right.
He's got
Right.
this, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got
I do have this. So, I'm still stuck with that, not being able to go with the 15-foot road.
No, you can, but it's gonna be documented on the paper.
It's still in play.
it.
No,
yes,
you need to go to the 18-foot road in order to get the third lot.
Because of somebody else's,
Well, that was a mistake you can't do, and it's also, you wanna get that second lot to
Right.
sell. So that's for your benefit as well, to get 18 feet. You'd have to put in
Yeah,
15-foot road anyways, and this is requiring to go to 18, am I correct on that?
Yeah.
So it will be the extra cost, but it's not as big of a difference as,
well, I'm wondering if, to make sure it fits in there, you know what I mean? To
it
fit within
does have to fit, so that's the
Right.
challenge. I think that was my concern on the stormwater, and most of those 7 items had to do it because it's a tight fit.
tight.
We need to see a cross-section to see how it's gonna fit, instead of, because you can't just fill and let it spill onto the neighbors, because you don't own that land. And they might have issues with that, so we need to have that a little more detailed. And it's something that Paul, I can't speak for him, but it's a routine type of thing that he probably does all the time.
Right.
So it's not a big obstacle.
I think what he's gonna do is he's gonna have to drop down the gradient down below, so you're not doing that kind of fill.
Right.
That's pretty much, maybe in some places it might even be cut. Cause you can contain your drainage in a cut better than you can in a fill. That's reality.
which is what I've already done. You know, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
per se, that's what's gonna happen.
To gain access,
You know,
yeah, for you to gain access, cause he's got a lot of fill in there.
okay,
Okay.
All right,
awesome.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, if you,
See you next meeting.
any issues, give me a call next week,
Okay,
okay?
I'll be in to see you Monday.
Okay, I'll be there.
next item is item number 1 of the land use ordinance revisions. Land use ordinance, chapter 9.2.9 and chapter 10.6.4, technical and finance capacity as approval criteria in site plan and conditional use applications.
The reason for this is because we've had a number of situations in which we've had folks who have come to do a project. And in some cases, they're going to do it themselves, or they're gonna have somebody else who's a friend who does it, and they don't have really necessarily, they may not have the capacity, the technical capacity to do the project. And what this is, Jamie knows, this is actually, and Jens knows, this is actually a requirement in DEP application, especially site location, that you demonstrate that you, A, have the fiscal capacity to do the project, which we usually take care of by bonding, or getting letters from the bank making a commitment to the project, but especially in bonding. And it would be important from a technical standpoint, a financial standpoint, especially in multi-stage or multi-phased projects, where you're not gonna ask for bonding up front from everything. A good example would be like Joe's, like the Cape Arundel project. You know, 6 phases, $56 million project, obviously you can't ask for a $56 million bond. But what you would want to know
Sure you
is
can.
you won't get
Good
it.
luck getting it.
No, hey, they're in Boston, okay?
Still a lot of money.
You know, nobody's gonna hang out that much money in the little town of Arundel, hold a check for $56 million, put it in the bank.
Bond is only security, it's not necessarily cash.
The point is that what it does is, number one, it indicates that there's a financial institution, or they have the financial capacity to complete the project, which the planning board wants, because we don't want half-done projects. So that, and we have no language for that in any of our ordinances right now, even though it's a model in the current subdivision ordinance, and it certainly is certainly that's something that DEP does for the site location permitting process.
So this is the language you're proposing right here, 9 and 10?
Right. The technical is that the person actually has the ability to do the project,
Yeah.
you know? And we've had a number of projects in the town where we're continuing to have problems because they did not have the technical capacity to do the project as they were approved to do it.
So I agree with having this, but I think one little thing I question is, what about just a small conditional use, something that might be adding an extra room to a building to do something that's not really a complex or expensive type of project? Would still be looking for that?
It would still be an approval criteria, but what would you be doing? You'd be saying,
You know?
yeah, I'm hiring this person to do that job.
Okay, so it doesn't,
Yeah, it's no different than when we do trash, and we say,
who's gonna pick it up?
we wanna see a contract for the trash to be hauled away.
Okay.
It's no different than that.
Right.
For a little one, but for a big job,
Yeah.
like I'm going to smelt iron, you know, out there, and I'm gonna sell my hot dog stand, I'm gonna go smelt iron and make expensive alloys. Would you please show us that you have the ability
no,
to do this?
It's the same as hot dog, isn't it?
Yeah. You laugh, but you will get people who
Yeah.
bite off more than they can chew.
But I'm just don't wanna hurt, have obstacles for the little
Little
guy.
guy.
No.
Yeah.
I think this would be an obstacle to somebody who's gone way over their head,
Yeah.
their ability to. And then the town's left to clean it up.
Well,
The neighbors are left to live with it.
And I think
Yeah.
it can be used in, for us to argue if we do get an applicant that comes in and says, yeah, I'm gonna have a do it
Homeowner do it
yourself
himself.
type of private way construction. Okay, what's your experience in doing it? What's your ability to take that on
Just a document.
more so than, you wanna get out on a
But also-
backhoe and play for a few weekends.
But also
I'm going
too,
to shape this road
Right.
with an excavator.
Right.
That kind of thing.
I mean, also too, that you may have someone who has done it before, but this is their project instead of somebody else's dime, okay? And I think, correct me if I'm getting the gist of this, we have a situation that's going on, or currently going on, or might be going on,
We have
Yeah.
several right now.
huh?
We have several situations where. this
They're
repeal-
existing now?
Yeah. Government is always a reactionary, you know that.
Huh?
Government is always reactionary. This is to prevent things from occurring in the future, but we've had many situations like this in the past, where somebody was not capable of doing the job that they said they were capable of doing. And all
Okay.
it does, it doesn't guarantee that we won't have problems.
It's- yeah.
But what it does is it gives the planning board an opportunity to hear what your plan is to do this. And do you have the capacity to do this? And if
Okay.
you don't, then you need to make the planning board feel comfortable that you do have the capacity, or you can get the people who do have the capacity to do it. Whatever it is, whether it be construction, whether it be operations, it could be operations. We
Well-
have operation problems,
Right.
as you know, that, where they don't
Or
have the
condition.
capacity to do
Yep.
it.
Well, like, we're being vague, but I think Turner, the planning board should know where we're having these, instead of leaving us in the dark of the situations. Maybe afterwards or whatever, but I mean, but I'm just saying to cover acknowledgement, or so we can actually foresee.
The crystal ball?
Well, no, I think Marty brings up a good point in that if there are situations that are out there that we're not made aware of, use it as a learning tool for us to say, okay, this, Bob came in and said he was gonna be able to do this, and, Bob really got way in over his head.
Right.
And, potentially this is what we can do on the next application that comes in, that somebody proposes the same thing, instead of then going and using a contractor that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we need to know who the contractor is gonna be through the review process, because a lot of times that's not known, but, if they, the applicant says, yeah, I'm gonna, put this out to bid, and, looking at, these three individuals or companies, and like, okay, well, we know that they seem to be on top of what they're doing, so.
Right.
Okay,
Am I right, or, yeah, I think you
Yes.
see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
in section 10, I have just a question on the numbering tab.
Oh,
So you have it
hold on.
10.6 in my new blue binder here,
You have a numbering issue?
site plan review, 10.6.4 criteria for approval.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like in on page 182, it starts with number 13.
It looks like a continuation of the previous numbering system for section 10.6.3. Skipping.
Skipping a few numbers.
Right.
Right.
It
So-
must, it must
Yeah.
continue with something. It's funny that you do have 10, which it would be the next number.
Oh, we had a 12.
Yeah. That,
There would still be missing 8 and 11, 12.
Right,
We're
8,
filling the gap
8, 9,
partially.
Yeah.
and 12.
so 13 would be 1, 21 should be 9, and 8.
But-
Yeah, then
I mean, not
10.
that that's a
Yeah.
huge issue, I don't wanna spend a ton of time talking
Well, I
about
will
the
tell you
numbering of this, but,
Numbering is one of
Right.
those things that we're allowed to do without having to go to town meeting. So, you want to take care of it.
so, I mean, I
Thank you,
guess,
I didn't even
the
see
way
that
it,
either.
the way it seems like it is under each heading, or each subheading, it started with a new numbering sequence. So I would recommend we do the same thing
Yep, it does.
here.
One
The
of
criteria for approval starts with one,
with
not
trust
13.
Right, exactly.
struggles.
So, but again, it looks to be that the substance of the criteria is pretty much what we just discussed with the conditional use permit.
Yep. That's why it begins at 10. Goes to 10.
All right, so,
Hmm.
Well, on my digital where I pulled up on my computer, no, they were. That's what put them on 10 and 11.
Mm.
So I'd like to know what happened here.
okay, so,
Well, I'll make a motion that we,
Is verbiage get incorporated in?
yeah, that we add that, thanks, yeah, that it gets incorporated, added to the existing 9.29 and 10.64. Both of them.
I'll second that.
okay. Motion and second, any discussion? So, question, Ted, this would go, you know, aside from the numbering
Yeah.
of the existing criteria for approval in the site plan, this would then go for a public hearing?
Yep.
Go through that whole same process for an ordinance revision?
Correct. And we are gonna be having a public hearing coming up probably early December or late this month.
For some ordinance revisions?
No.
We have, yes, they're for ordinance revisions, but we have a petition.
Yep.
And so if we're gonna have a town meeting, we might as well piggyback some of this stuff
Right.
on there and get some
Okay.
cleanup, get some
All right.
stuff cleaned up.
So,
We're not for June.
I know we've got a motion on the table, I don't wanna sidetrack that, but, would we need another motion to put it onto that same public hearing? We don't even know the date of that yet. Okay,
We don't.
so, any other discussion?
I suppose that we could simply make a motion to assign it to the next publicly scheduled hearing.
Good, could I add that to my motion then?
As long as Roger's okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm fine. You know, it's pretty controversial, yeah, so,
Okay.
so, and we'll just add it to the next scheduled public hearing.
So, the motion as amended, any other discussion? All in favor?
Okay,
Aye.
Unanimous?
question. With this, the former applicant, with his process that he's been going through, will he be needing another public hearing?
Well, I think we said yes before.
Well, only reason I'm asking that is because if that's, because that could be included if things are prepared in time.
Oh, you wanna have a public hearing for him before these, well, I don't know.
Well, that's what you see where my question
We
is.
have 60 days from the date the selectmen received it, which this is bad.
No, I'm not talking about the change, I'm talking about the private way.
Yeah, I understand that. I thought last time we had established.
Because we
that
had
were
a
gonna
public
have
hearing
two public
for it.
hearings on this. Remember?
Yeah. Well, I remember the discussion, I don't remember the conclusion.
We had a public hearing to grant it. But I thought we said we were also may gonna need it because,
Right.
What I'm concerned, at this point,
if he makes the time,
I'm looking at, though, the next 2 months, we're only meeting, Thanksgiving's out, that's a fourth Friday, and then we got Christmas, that's another lost, and I don't want him going into January for,
Well, you'll be
For
pleased to know that I scheduled you for both November and December for 2
and I don't wanna be meeting every Thursday, every week either, but, all right, if that's what we have to do, it just so we're not stringing him out, because, it's not fair
I
to him.
agree, yeah.
No,
I
we're
agree,
not,
Tom.
I don't, and I think the board is, I was surprised as everybody that, you know, that when they slapped the scale on there, that it wasn't,
Yeah,
it wasn't what we talked about.
yeah.
So I think, all the data's in the computer, so it's all up to this engineer to whack this out fast.
Okay, all right, yep, good.
So item number 2 of the land use ordinance revisions is pertaining to section 5.9, discussion of proposed landscaping and buffering amendments.
Well, considering you guys weren't happy with the first round, I did some revamping, and did the second one. And I also, unfortunately, ran into a situation where, I was doing this with no power. We were doing this on generators, because we, as you know, we had no power at the office.
You got a big one outside?
Didn't have power out, didn't have power at home, computers weren't working. I was gonna write it by hand, Marty.
No, I'm talking about at the fire station, they have power.
Yeah, the fire station had power,
Yeah,
you're
but
absolutely
does,
right.
but does that
But-
not,
No, it doesn't,
that's where I was going at.
no, it does not. No. We sat in the dark, we literally sat in the dark. Finally.
Burn candles?
No candles.
No, you didn't burn the town hall down, did you?
It was an opportunity that was missed. Anyway,
So,
Corrections are on
Let's,
page 2.
moving on.
yeah. Thank you, Albert.
I know. Thank you.
Basically, this is, we made some changes in here, and some additions. Basically, the landscaping, the applicability, the exempted uses, the general performance standards are pretty much the same. We distinguish between landscaping. Probably could have a stronger statement about why this is important. But the objective of this is to get some consistency from what we get from applicants and to give them direction on what we're looking for. Because, as you know, our landscaping is kind of scattered among various sections of the ordinance, and there is no, if you look at our current landscaping ordinance, it's very short, very brief, and then the other landscaping is kind of scattered in various performance standards. This attempts to consolidate it into all one location, and also provide some standards for people to create plans and to put stock out. Plus also on top of that, I also, let's just go through some of these things first before we get to that. You remember we had some issues with screening and buffering?
Yep.
Yep, that 140 was eliminated and went down to 100%. I think that's what we had discussed.
Question,
Yep.
screening and buffing. We had a big conflict.
Yep.
On turnaround for Champagne.
Yep.
2 butters. Said they didn't want any. Didn't need it. Both in agreement. Why do we still need it?
Because of exactly what happened.
Meaning,
Well, this is in situations.
this was already, it's off the road, there is nothing, in conflict or development or anything else.
I don't understand.
It's
Probably
in-
because ownership of property changes and.
Excuse me?
The town's, I guess the idea here is to protect future unknown owners of the screen property.
At the present time, we're not looking in the crystal ball.
Yeah, but if the owner sells his property to someone else, they should have the same privileges of it being screened as the previous owner.
But if there was, but the only reason it was being possibly required to be screened because it was expanding, not because there was already something existing there. And the property line did not change.
Why are we going specific on this? Because
Because we went round and round on it.
This does not go specific. This is basically setting standards
Standards.
for screening.
I mean,
Where the planning board decides they need screening. We haven't gone into various residential sections or other sections yet to start tearing apart what needs to be screened and what doesn't. Although parking lots are pretty much consistent throughout the ordinance, and that's why we have it. Street trees are consistent, parking lots are consistent, so those are in here. But it's saying where the planning board requires this.
Yep.
Well, the reason
This is what you're to achieve.
yeah, but the reason I'm asking this is because supposedly we didn't have any leverage either way to say yes or no, even though with all the abutters and everything else, we're in total conjunction in saying it. That's why I'm saying that, I'm using this as a specific example.
Well, the specific example in that was a specific requirement of the BI district.
This isn't in the BI.
Yes, it is.
It is not.
What are you
Wait,
talking
wait, excuse me, BI, okay. I'm thinking business industrial, I mean,
about? Right.
this Champagne's is not,
It's in the BI district.
you can't. You
That's
change
why they could
districts
do
so
that.
many times, numbers and, all right.
So, yeah, like I said, it would be where it's required, it would clarify that, that standard.
That's right.
Tad, I see in 5.9.4.3, you added the word feasible in and capitalized it,
Whenever feasible, it doesn't need to be capitalized.
unless that's somebody's name in your family
No,
that
it
I'm not
isn't.
aware of.
No, it's got a lot of
Okay.
strange names, but that's not one
All
of
right.
the names.
Conifer buffers, species that have a tendency to lose in water.
I see a spelling error. Good, didn't catch that. Branches.
You can go around to a
There
minute,
you go.
grammar,
There you go.
little minor thing.
So I took that out of your mouth before you got a chance. to
Yes,
do
you
it.
did.
At the bottom of the first page, there's a comma, should be a period. Now, the very last, at the end, planning board should be period in general.
Yep.
That's new sentence.
Yep, thank you.
Little minor thing.
Um,
The numbers are all correct though.
Thank goodness for that, huh? Don't know what's gonna happen when it goes into the magic computer, though.
It's in Word, right?
Yes,
The mind of
this
a
doesn't
gentleman.
work. Well, the problem is the part of the old ordinance is so in here, it's not fixed.
Mm-mm-mm.
Imagination returns. In the process of retyping it.
So apropos to that, is that a period or a semicolon? Where do you want semicolons?
On the island? Where are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a semicolon on island plantings.
Okay.
No, that's a full colon, because then there's a series of different things that can go on
Shade tree.
there. No, that's a semicolon,
Which number are you on?
you know, it needs to be a period.
It does, doesn't it?
Where's this?
Change it for the compliment.
Well, it's not incorrect to have it a semicolon, it just,
But
so
everything
it's
else is a period.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, should be consistent that way.
So we're getting down to the nitpicky stuff now.
So-
I have a more general question.
There we
You
go.
guys have been working at this a lot longer than I have, which is just this tonight for me. But I had a question that goes up to section 5.9.2. Exempted activities and uses.
Yep.
One of which is municipal uses are exempted.
Right.
And my question is, why should they be? And I can understand how the towns, probably there are some uses that maybe should be exempted, but why paint with such a broad brush for the town?
Yeah, they're making everybody else do it. I mean, we're paying for it no matter what. I mean,
Well,
they should be the same rules.
So
and
Tad,
that's true, but although municipal uses are exempted from the sign ordinance too. For obvious reasons, because, we have street signs.
Well, let's put it this way.
Yeah, we can't.
That is an
Well,
obvious use.
okay,
So.
but let's also come back to this. The town themselves are under this exemption. They don't wanna follow the guidelines of business district.
Doesn't that inure to the benefit of everybody in the town, if the town is subject to at least those same standards for,
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, this is language that predates this change,
No.
right? This is,
Well, no, the municipal uses have been exempted
Right.
in other areas before. So this was, carrying on that tradition.
Right.
Because we have to be careful sometimes with traditions that are removed.
Hmm.
But if the board believes that the town, I'm trying to think of a situation where a town structure or use should not require, the only thing I can think of is a stand pile. You know, like this-
Right, I was thinking that same thing, the maintenance lot or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But I mean, for the new town hall that's gonna be going up, why should that go up with something less than what's called
we
for
were
in terms of?
Right, what would you expect a business to put in if they were going somewhere?
And the
Considering
town
that
is a business.
landscaping is meant to
Right.
tie the community together, create, uniform street
Yep.
images to enhance the property values.
Yep.
The town certainly needs to participate in that. I'm just thinking about those unusual situations where and I can't think of any, so.
Well, unless you want to turn on landscaping or anything else, like at Public Works down on Route 1, where they have to plant trees around the water pump shed. I mean, that's not, I mean, that in itself is what it is. But it's not like somebody's walking in and out of there every day of the week and waving a flag and saying, well,
You mean the KKW one?
yeah,
They did it well enough.
I know, but I'm saying if they're willing to do it, so what the town can do.
Well, it's a good point, Marty. Are you gonna make a motion to strike that?
Strike the words and municipal uses.
Yep.
Put the word "and" ahead of home occupations.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Okay. Made and seconded. Any more discussion on that? Being none, all in favor?
Yay.
James, good?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question as a term I don't know, I'm not familiar with, is 5.9.4B, planting berms on the second page.
Yes.
It has, it says with friable fertile soil, what's friable?
Probably.
Yeah. Really, that's a term, okay, all right.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I have a berm made out of rocks.
So,
Everything's gonna die.
Right.
if it was all clay, it probably wouldn't do
Yeah.
well.
I actually am gonna do a couple of illustrations, I'm probably gonna do, and that's something I'll talk to you about later, but, yeah, of how you do a berm, basically. And if you're gonna use blast material, use spoil material,
Yeah.
you can do it, you can use it, because, there's a lot of soil in some of these
Yeah.
berms.
Yeah,
You can use that stuff, but then you've gotta be able to provide a planting medium and a planting root zone for them to
Yeah.
do it, and you should have a clay layer, at least an inch, maybe 2 inch clay layer separation between the blast spoil or the asphalt or whatever, and the friable soil that the plant root zone's gonna be. So you need that, and I'm not gonna describe all that, so I'm thinking about putting together several illustrations, typical details, and putting it in a guidebook.
and this is kind of a result of some of the mistakes we've seen.
Yes,
Yeah.
well,
They-
it shows that
Plants
you
die.
can't, when I say berm, somebody else has a different idea of
Yeah.
what constitutes a berm.
Yeah.
You know, and if we're gonna make this thing work, then we might as well get specific on certain things that are critical to us. We had the same problem with conifers, remember?
What?
We had the same problem with conifers, where some guys were putting in evergreen trees, for screening. And the only problem is they grow very tall and the bottom branches dry out and die, and there goes your screening. So, no, you don't use those kind of trees for screening.
Yeah.
You use other kinds of evergreens for screening, because those things will, in 10 years, no longer be usable as a screen. So I think we have to get a little more specific, and the board needs to have a little more muscle, and have it codified in some way, so you feel comfortable when you say, that's not gonna work, we want this.
Ted, in 4C, what is coca mulch?
Coca is, believe me, that's out of the current ordinance. Coca mulch, it's actually fallen out of favor because it's expensive. It's
What mulch is it except from Du Bois?
finding, No, that's not mulch, that's compost.
Okay.
Coca mulch is it's a bean, it's actually a tropical bean plant, and it's a bean
So
like,
it's an
and these are the
imported mulch.
husks from it. What they are is they're the husks,
Okay.
and they compost those sufficiently so they no longer are sucking up nitrogen. And they use that, and you know, it's a stupid thing to put in because that's really,
Yeah.
we have it in the ordinance, I don't know anybody uses coca mulch anymore.
How many years ago was it used?
And that's what I wonder,
70s.
do we,
Seventies, eighties, it was
Okay,
popular.
so, I mean,
Just similar
back
materials
then,
would
Right.
include that.
back then it was okay. Today they've had, modern technology, other things are being used, so why don't we just,
Yeah, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
And similar materials would
that would
Cover
fall under
culture,
that?
and that would
Yeah.
cover coca mulch. And then, you know, the thing that they're finding out is, I put in dried pine needles because pine needles are becoming, people are accepting them now. Before they thought, oh, well, it acidifies the
They're-
soil.
they're
It's a
indigenous.
myth. They're indigenous, they're cheap, people wanna get rid of it. They don't, when they're dry, they have no impact on pH. And why buy dyed red mulch when you can have pine needles? If you like that coloration, it's perfect.
but they're very flammable.
I've stomped out a couple of mulch fires with my boots too. It sells regular mulch when it dries out.
You know,
Pine needle mulch, right? Excuse me,
Pine needles
pine
are
bark.
more flammable.
They are
than-
more flammable, you're right, Mark.
But they also are more wind spread too.
Yep, yep.
So you may be intruding on your neighbors if you wanna turn on, play,
We can
Well,
do
you
that
probably won't have a
without our-
problem with that unless you've got the same neighbor as Rand Paul. So,
Yeah.
so besides that,
well, they can afford more pine mulch.
Some neighbors are worse than others, I guess.
So.
well, it was just an option in there.
Screening at a minimum.
Throwing it out, being a smart ass.
I know.
Unless otherwise specified.
You wanna get rid of coca mulch?
Yes,
Okay.
Right,
I'm,
I mean,
I'm not sure what the screening addition is unless otherwise specified. What,
well, how I read that is, you would have to screen unless maybe buffering is required.
and so it might be some districts will allow another
Right.
option.
Some districts may allow screening around a parking lot, others may require, or other uses adjacent to maybe a residential district may require buffering instead of screening, I think is what that caveat is for.
It's very much for that kind of thing. Also, if you recall, in the DB1 and DB2, we have provisions in there for shared parking and for concurrent parking between properties. You know, so you have two properties that can have, instead of screening my property and we're sharing a parking lot, or we have parking lots next to each other, so customers can go from the parking lot on your land to the parking lot on my land.
Yeah.
If you were to strictly enforce the ordinance, you'd say, well, you've gotta have an evergreen screen between those property lines. This gives you the option of saying, no.
So,
It depends on the district regulations, so it defers to the district regulations. And we already have that regulation in the DB1 and DB2 that allows for no screening between,
okay,
parking lots
so
that are
so that makes sense, right? Maybe what threw me off is that it's unless otherwise specified as specified.
Oh.
Just say unless otherwise
No.
specified in.
No, unless otherwise
Unless that's otherwise
specified
specified.
in individual,
Yeah.
sorry, wow.
You just strike the one word.
As specified, no.
You know, I'm getting older, I'm repeating myself.
No, this isn't bad overall.
Thanks.
Better than usual, Chad.
Oh, ow.
But, you know, I won't mind a little thing.
how about the idea of street trees, because we had all the street trees with the extreme wind causing all the
I know you.
outages.
I know you hate your.
It was so odd seeing the town plows, they plowing the streets, so they went down my street a few times.
Oh, yeah, with just
With
debris.
Just debris.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they did on my street too. I think we all agreed that we want to have street trees, Mark, a long time ago. It's been
Who
in the
wants
ordinance.
it? You wanted it.
Yeah. I recommend it.
I
didn't
said
want
no.
it, I recommended it. I recommended, the planning board said, yeah.
Well, the fact
Good idea.
is, you're trying to get a business in first. Instead of turning around, you get the business in first before giving him all the other additional stuff, before he can even get in.
I think a business that we wanna come in is gonna wanna make their place look good, and they're gonna probably.
That's his options, yes, but turn around with all the different demands between having the parking lot with, which is gonna make an obsolete turnaround just for snow plowing and everything else, with all the different islands, and then you also have your shielded lights, and
So I was
you know
looking
where I'm going at.
I was looking.
I know what you're going at, I'm
You brought the subject up today of landscaping, so I'm.
yeah, and because it's been in there before, it's in the ordinance now. It's not like I'm
Well,
reintroducing.
the old ordinances, you had a green vegetation buffer.
Marty, that was back in the '80s. You
No,
had it- you're-
no, it was later than that,
Okay, what?
because I would give you a Pacific 2002.
We
It
don't
was-
have to go backwards, back that far. Just going forward. Just get this right.
So all this language that you got in here, Tad,
Yeah,
is already in our ordinance.
what I've done, the concept of shade trees, yeah, the shade trees are already in our ordinance.
Right.
The number of trees, I think we've actually reduced the offset,
Yep.
increased the offset between trees.
Mhm.
And we got rid of trees being required to be planted in the right of way. And species selection, and to help people, because we've had some problems, probably noticed that I sent you out a list of street trees.
Yeah, I got that.
I haven't finished that yet.
I
But it's
noticed
based
some
on-
blank spaces at the bottom.
But the blank space at the bottom because I'm weeding stuff out based on availability.
Beach.
Beech is not a real good street tree.
Weak.
Yeah, it's weak, it also takes forever to grow. It's expensive, and there's not a lot of availability of it. Especially.
Right in the woods,
Really
you got 'em.
expensive. Yeah, but that's not all in burlap, and the survivability is not very good.
Any tree.
You don't get
falls
a
in
two-year,
burlap.
you don't get a 2-year guarantee from the nursery if you pull it out of the woods. But the number of trees, I'm also, you notice I've also divided those trees, well, I guess we'll get to that when we get to that, but I've got a list of recommended street trees.
Yep.
And haven't finished that yet. And they're gonna be divided into 3 different types of street trees. Those that are large street trees, those that are medium-sized that you can put on lawn or in front of a business so they don't block everything. And then small street trees that can go under wires or in parking lots or places like that. Because people say, well, what do I use? Well, here's the list. You know, and I actually started getting a little overboard there. I started doing a list of all the different qualities of each tree. And it's almost like we're writing a whole new manual on street trees. And I'll ask you guys when we get to it, which one you wanna go, because I'll go either way.
I think it helps people to lay out a list for them,
Yes.
Yeah.
you know, I think that's,
We make
I-
it much
you know, I-
simpler.
Well,
right. As long as the list is broad enough.
Yes,
Well,
it's got a lot
or
of different
has the
species.
flexibility, if somebody, you know, has their own landscape architect that wants to do something unique, then, you know, they justify why it's good, then, okay, so be it, have at it.
Right.
It does allow that, I think, it says, from the tree list or as specified by the planning board, which
Yes.
could include,
Right,
if they propose something, we can.
Somebody wants to put in a metal sequoia, which is a very large evergreen that sheds its needles every year. And they wanna clean it up, terrific, but don't put it anywhere near our streets. You wanna use it a lawn tree, not problem, but.
well, what if we use that for mulch?
It's self-mulch, it's
Right.
perfect for that, you're
So,
right, absolutely.
You'd have at least
Actually, you
2
have to cart it off.
inches, you'd
You
have
can
at least
start a
2
mulch tree.
inches, you know, every year, maintain it. So that
That's
type of tree
sustainability
would,
right there,
yeah. It
Solve
sounds
a
like it'd
lot
be a
of
good one,
problems.
Ted.
we'll require it.
What is a rain
What,
garden?
what did you say that
Will
was?
require.
A rain garden is, I haven't really developed that more, I just tied it to DEP. Rain garden is one of the new, methods for dealing with runoff. It's the opposite of raised, well, I'm looking at it as the opposite of a raised island. It's a depression.
Right.
That's basically, all the runoff goes into that
So
depression.
you're seeing these in turnpike, ramp circles.
Right. You see them there, you see them in Park. Scarborough has a lot. If you go over to Walmart in Scarborough, those areas, you'll see a depressed area. Actually, Hannaford has that. Hannaford and Kennebunk's got one.
That's what I was gonna say, right in, not right in front of the restaurant.
Yeah.
That is it's
Oh, yeah.
it's
Bigger.
not a parking lot variety, but it is a same type of system where, runoff goes into that and utilizes the nutrient uptake of the plants within the basin. It's like a, think of it as a vegetated detention basin, that's filled with soil media or a planting media that uses that to support the vegetation, and the nutrients are, absorbed by the plants.
Where is this?
It's right in front of Sebago.
It's also on the side of the.
Oh,
Hannaford,
okay,
south side.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
sort
I-
of
I- now-
sitting in
now-
the front between
I was
Sebago
trying to
and
listen, I'm trying to listen, this is, hell is
Yep.
now I see what you're,
It's a unique name, rain garden, but
Euphemism.
it is a very
oh,
strong.
it's a good place, at least you can put the snow.
I don't know where they derived, when I first learned about them was in the Northern Virginia area, where you've got a lot of curb and gutter type of development. And they're used to sort of break up some of that, and instead of having everything go directly into a stormwater conveyance system, then you'd have a little more, it'd promote a little more overland flow and get some of that treatment instead of just into pipe treatment. You get a little bit along the way, so. But yeah, they've been, used in, larger suburban areas for, 20 years now, or more.
Well, overall, this looks pretty good. Most of this is in other places already, but
Yep.
you're gonna have this
Consolidated.
all consolidated. Well, I'm gonna make a motion. You believe that?
I think that's great.
Okay,
So
make
that-
a motion, there were some minor grammatical edits, but I haven't heard any really substantial type of changes required. So, I'll motion we forward this on to public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
And that will be inclusive of the, I think we just had two substantive and
What were
a
they?
smattering of grammatical.
Grammatical, yeah, some
Yeah,
punctuations.
Substantive were the, in 5.9.2 concerning municipal uses.
Oh, yes, that's a big thing.
And then the cocoa mulch,
Yeah, just scratch that.
I think those are only two
Those are
substantive
two big.
items, and then the rest of them were grammatical.
Right.
The specified, that's gone.
That was grammatical.
That was grammatical. Okay,
Okay,
great.
so, and again, that motion
Would include those two
Yep.
subject changes, everything else.
so, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
Just for
carries.
principle.
4-1. Okay.
Okay.
Item number 3 under land use ordinance revisions is land use ordinance and subdivision regulations, application fees to be determined periodically by Board of Selectmen.
What we have is a situation where the Board of Selectmen, by their own rules, are supposed to set fees for all applications and any town function that demands a fee. They're supposed to do that on an annual basis. They don't do it because nobody demands that they up their fees. And The other thing is that when we put a fee into our ordinance, that's locked in until we change it in the ordinance. And that also basically prevents us from having the flexibility of changing it quickly on an as-need basis. I think the board would like to have the opportunity to amend our fees as prices change. I'll give you a good example. We asked $250 for a minor application fee. That is supposed to cover staff costs, publication in the newspaper, and postings, as well as mailing a butters list. Problem is that at this point, the Journal Tribune chews up almost all of that money when we do one public hearing. We do 2 public hearings, and we're over that $250 budget. It doesn't even cover any of the other costs we're talking. So, the selectmen have, rather than us put it in the ordinance, it's really a job for the selectmen to determine what these fees are. So what we will be doing is going and putting this list together and submitting it to the selectmen on an annual basis and saying this is the changes that we think should be done to the fees, and we're supposed to have a posted list of fees up at the up in the town clerk's office, and I believe it's way out of date.
Never seen one.
I know.
So Ted, why isn't the direct cost of a notification, borne directly by the applicant?
I think mainly because the costs have increased over the years and the fees haven't.
I guess, let me
ZBA's got the
rephrase.
same problem.
Why don't we look into modifying the fee structure to remove that out of the application fee and place it directly as a responsibility of the applicant?
We can do that.
Subject to change, like everything else.
The only problem is I'm not gonna always, that means I won't know.
But the next question is,
How would I
we-
charge a fee if I don't know what my expenses are gonna be up front?
Bill after.
Bill them afterwards?
No.
If somebody said,
No, you can't do that.
if
You
somebody
know what?
says, you denied me,
Right.
go pound sand.
Do you have a rough estimate of what it usually is?
It all depends on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
application.
you could have 3 butters
Like
and
if
it's
we do
cheap.
Bentley, who has a
Right.
whole bunch of butters,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's expensive.
you don't wanna just get
You
an
go on
average.
Thompson Road, I got 4 or 5.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, here's a idea, okay? Each application is different, we realize that. Give us a guideline of turnaround, like you said, Bentley's. You have how many abutters? Okay, have a basic, if it costs $10 for each abutter, as part of the application fee, of turnaround, whatever else, now, if you're gonna have 1 or 2 public hearings, have that already included,
A tiered system,
huh?
a tiered system.
You
Whatever we do, it's gotta be something that's not arbitrary. And it can't be subject to a suggestion that we're,
And the other question is also too, where do we cover it for legal expenses? I'm trying to be,
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Marty, and we have a habit of not using our attorney that often, because of the limited legal fee structure we've got, and also, I have to make a very strong argument to the manager, nothing against the manager, he's supposed to watch the henhouse, on how frequently I go to the town attorney. And, we can say, well, all right, you want an opinion on that? You're paying for it. We can do that ourselves, and we've done that before.
opinion also, 2 different opinions doesn't mean either one of them are right.
Well, as far as we're concerned, if we have a town attorney, for a town attorney gives us an opinion, I think it's in our best interest to follow our town attorney's opinion. If we ask her opinion, kind
Well,
of
let's
doesn't look
put it
good to
this way.
say, well, we don't
Yeah,
want to
no,
listen.
thank you.
We won't go there.
But-
So are we looking to add a section in our ordinance that,
I wasn't really, no.
So this is more of just a discussion item.
Simpler for me.
This is simply a discussion item.
Well,
It's a discussion item, and, you know, what it does, right now we've got, here's a good example. Conditional use renewals, $100. Du Bois' application fee was $100.
Yeah, that's my whole.
Right.
the next question, we can talk all about this. We've talked about it before, and the selectmen never done anything.
Well, if we
I
submit,
mean,
this would be staff submitting to the selectmen on an annual basis, these are the fee structure we want for this year. And that's the way you do it. I mean, you just say, hey, agenda item, planning boards, here's the planning board fee schedule for this, for 2018.
Yeah, but.
We submit that every year. You say, okay, Tad, do the fee schedule for this year.
Yep.
You know, you guys approve it, and it goes to the select.
So it's going to be a recurring annual agenda item for a specific calendar day.
Should they?
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it. Instead of leaving it to staff,
And if-
you guys do it.
And,
I mean,
and that
I'll
puts
do
it in
seven.
front of them, instead of just relying on them to take it up on their own volition.
Basically, yeah. My guess would be if we do that, then code will jump on top of that. And they'll say, well, you know, our building fees are, building permit fees are 1995 levels, and we need to bring them up, be comparable with other towns. In many cases, we'll probably do it based on comparability with other towns.
Yes.
And in some cases, you're right, we might have a tiered system. If you're gonna cost us this much money, we want this. So that's one way of doing this. Instead of having, here's a good example, our subdivision right now is set for a final subdivision plan is $75 a lot. That doesn't even cover the public hearing.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, you can't do that. Up front, the only time we ever made money on it was with Cape Arundel. I think those fees were $27,000 for the subdivision fee for that project. It was basically a per unit basis. If it was where it should be, we would have gotten even more money. But,
On thought of that, can we have it, make sure we're asking to have it done by, before town meeting? I mean, date-wise, I mean,
sure.
so that it wasn't gonna get shuffled, oh, we'll do it later.
I think we found that if the planning board has sent a request for something to the selectmen in terms of a codification of an ordinance, you know, putting an ordinance on a warrant, or something of that nature, they've been responsive. So if we say, this is the annual, in compliance with your annual setting of fees for the town, that is in your own, it's in the bylaws, that's what it is. Here is our recommendation, our annual recommendation for fees. They may just say, you know, next year they might say, well, there's no reason to increase fees. We might say, there's no reason to increase fees.
They just don't wanna be the bad guys.
Well, it's the planning board who's making the recommendation, so they get to say what the planning board recommended.
I just don't wanna get swept under the table like.
I don't want it either, but right now it's getting swept under the table because our fees are not even paying for our advertising needs.
So are you going to be, or have you prepared a fee schedule?
Not yet, but if you guys go this way, I will,
Good.
absolutely.
I think that's
I
the
think
way
that,
to do it.
that would be the way to do it.
How about your engineering? Where are you gonna cover that?
Engineering's still gonna be, I hate our process of you give me $50 more every single time you come within, you know, $50 of the escrow amount. I mean, the escrow amount doesn't mean anything. $500, as you know, basically deals with the first meeting. Most of the time, my reviews are costing about $1,500. That's what they cost. I get Woodard and Curran, or I get Jason Volatis. It's still gonna be $1,500. It's pretty much what it's running at right now.
That's why I'm asking this, I mean.
So we say, you pay, and I, you know, when I can do a work order for, let's say, Woodard and Curran, you know, I get an estimate up front. Or I put a limit, I said not to exceed. do this at not to exceed $1,500 or $2,000, and, you know, so do this job up to $2,000, and then come back and document and tell me why you can't continue, why you couldn't get the job done at $2,000. I put my consultants on the edge. They're responsive, they don't have a free rate. I don't know how much it costs for them to do this. And the planning board could do that. I mean, you guys can approve, I usually do, you say, go get a stormwater, go get a peer review of that stormwater. You know, I can tell you what it is, and you can say, well, you can settle it if you want. But usually just say, go get it. So we usually handle those fees. And you know what, we don't really have them, really, we still have that funky escrow kind of thing going on in here. But maybe we need to look at that too. Maybe we need to add something that says applicants should be responsible for paying all peer review fees.
Yeah,
Maybe that's,
nothing wrong with that.
that's,
Why not
in
them?
this little jabbering I'm doing, actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that.
Yeah.
Who can argue against
I
that?
can't. So, I'll figure out a place to put it, maybe it'll start at 13.
And made it known on the application.
Yeah, it makes a vague reference to it,
Well,
but it doesn't say it clearly.
clarify it,
I'll clarify.
because
You guys should review, guys should approve the applications anyways. In fact, I know we got a lot of stuff to do, but at some point, you guys should go over the applications and you should approve the applications.
what I'm saying is because, for an example, we have an application, they turn around, comes in, then they withdraw, then they come back, and it's, or within the 30, 60 days, and that's why I'm saying,
Yeah. Okay.
instead of being teased and this, that, if it says it front blank,
Are you gonna be coming back to us with?
Yeah,
some
come back with it.
examples of
Yeah,
that?
you guys, that's a
We
real
all
great
agree
idea.
it's something we could change.
I'll also, you know what, I'll also just send you all copies of the applications, so you have them on file. I recently updated some, because we had to, because we changed our numberings and remember, with all applications except for subdivision now use the site plan review process and submission requirements. That's why we now have 7 days for public hearing notification instead of 10. It's all uniform now, all our applications are uniform in terms of review times and so forth. And it also has a limitation. If we don't, for instance, once we have a public hearing for him, you know, if we don't make a decision in 30 days, it's automatically denied. So, we have very strict limits under site plan. We don't use site plan very much. But now, we're under very, very strict limits, and I might just have to put on the application, you know, dates on it, so you guys are always aware of when we're coming up to deadlines, statutory deadlines on taking action. And we've done that before. Remember, we made, who was it, Atlantic? It was Atlantic, and it was Sebago Tech over on Lot 3. Remember, we made them send us a letter requesting an extension?
Right, yep.
Because they were under deadline. If they didn't get that well issue resolved, we were gonna deny the application. So they asked for extension.
Well, then that's an easy
It's easy thing to
extension.
do.
I mean,
But what
it's
it
a
does is
no-brainer for them to do.
Number one, it keeps us always on edge. Number two, it also it combats that.
we don't get overloaded all at once.
Yeah, there's that, and plus we're often accused of dragging our feet. And when it's statutory, that we have to act within a certain amount of time, and we do that every time. We're not dragging our feet,
All right.
okay?
Also too, those who weren't here last time, you would say, just to inform the rest of them, turn on about making a budget
Yep.
for the planning board itself.
And we need to do that soon. If you're gonna pursue that, we have to do that soon. Because usually in January, the budgets are all submitted. So, the planning board, just as a recap for those who weren't here, planning board has a budget.
We've never seen it.
Right. It's what pays your salaries, and supposedly it pays for fees, it pays for, the secretary, it pays for a number of little things. Rather than having the manager do your budget this year, I guess Chip and Richard talked about actually submitting a real budget and trying to accomplish a couple of things in that budget. One of which, I think those two gentlemen are bringing up the issue of once again getting tablets for all the board members, so when we go digital, you can carry it with you, so you don't have to print out stuff. Marty's always concerned about printing out large documents, and you always have it with you, and you don't have to do what Jens is doing right now, which is, carrying a huge file and putting all that paper in.
I'm looking in the back of my car.
Yeah.
Well, I got.
Marty, I don't know how you find it, there's so much stuff in the back of your car.
Yeah, 2008, I can keep pulling stuff out.
I know, you can pull out probably the ordinance from 1995 out of there, I bet you can.
No, not that one.
Okay.
All right, let's move along
Yeah.
to the approval of the minutes. The only one I have is the October 26th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
The printer didn't print.
no, it wasn't that, no, I couldn't get it, the computer wasn't running, we had no power.
The printer
So,
didn't print.
Oh, that's
give everybody a few minutes to review.
Well, I looked at it while you were all chatting, I told you out and I read these.
A wise man.
And they look good to me, so I'll make a motion that we approve as written.
I'll second it.
So there were just three of us there.
So, so, any discussion or comment?
Nothing here.
That being said, all in favor of the three of you that were in attendance?
Yep.
They are approved unanimously.
No? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
two abstentions.
Two
Yeah.
abstentions.
Yep.
I will post them on the website.
Okay.
So what other business do you have for us, Mr. Planner?
Well, first of all, I think we need to deal with the dog care, or the kennel that was proposed for Route 111. They have purchased the property and are now prepared to continue with their application, their free application, and would like a sidewalk right after daylight savings is gone, which means it's Saturday only, unless we all want to pile out there for lunch. So, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'm not available at lunch,
Neither am I.
so
Looks like a Saturday.
Saturday mornings?
Not available Saturdays.
Not until hunting season's over.
That's right.
So
The next
next
Saturdays, I'm out.
Saturday is 4 for me.
I mean, the next Saturday after this one
And the
is what?
following Saturday is the
Thanksgiving.
Saturday after Thanksgiving.
That's the Saturday.
So I would say that's not a
Good one.
great one.
No.
And we'll go to December after that.
Yeah,
Here we are.
we are.
And we'll be, we never know what the weather's gonna bring.
Everybody have snowshoes?
How about early morning?
I can do something other than Monday and Tuesday during the week.
It's light at 7.
I could do that.
I'm usually at the shop about that time,
All right.
between 7 and 7:30 over here. And that's the other side of the town, so.
Yeah, it's a fun time, they go move around on 111.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Make it that first Saturday in December?
Question, when is, Rich and, Chip gonna be? They're not here at this meeting, I realize that, but they're gonna be back next week, I mean, that's why I'm trying to see if, on the morning,
I don't know.
that's all I was
exactly.
trying to ask.
I think Rich is gonna be real tough to, I think Rich is gonna be tough, cause he's on the road a lot next month.
Okay,
He's out of town right now.
yeah,
And in case anybody didn't know, Chip had an automobile accident.
no,
Yeah, he drove right in, he fell asleep at the wheel on I-95 in New Hampshire, went right into a series of sand bunkers at 70 miles an hour, and he is fine. He's hurt,
Yeah,
busted
beat
up.
pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, from what I say, he's got a lot of bruises, got a seatbelt burn,
Yep.
spiraled his third finger, third metacarpal.
Could have been a lot worse,
He
huh?
could have.
Oof.
His Subaru doesn't exist anymore, so,
Yeah, it's a Subaru, that's,
and I think that's a blessing to get another Subaru off the road.
you ever had one?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, no, I drove
Yeah,
one
back
in
in
the
the
Rocky
1970s,
Mountains.
right?
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yes, I remember that it was actually 1976. Hated that car.
anyway, okay, I didn't know, I mean,
But the fact is
Yeah.
that Chip is gonna be more available, he just wasn't gonna be available
Yeah.
this week. and-
yeah, I mean, with do, I would thank God he's all right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, literally. thank
I'm
God.
not available next weekend, but that doesn't mean we may not be able to have a quorum.
That's right.
That's
Um,
what- Next
so-
weekend is the weekend before Thanksgiving, right?
Correct.
Correct, yeah, I'm out that time too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yep.
up to
So that's,
first
Because you're not
Saturday of
available.
December.
I think it's the first Saturday in
yep,
December.
December 2nd.
Okay,
Or should be available then.
Yeah, I'll be available.
No, I don't
weather permitting,
think we're gonna find another closer date. It's,
I think we set it at that, and
what time?
Early,
9 o'clock,
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, 8:30,
yeah, early.
earlier the
wait a
better.
minute, Marty has to come from the other side of town, so we
So
gotta
it's
be
Tom.
cognizant of that.
so is
Me
Tom,
too, yeah, so
I
we're,
mean,
we're on the other side of the tracks.
9 o'clock?
I'm on the other side of the river.
That's typically when we do it. I don't have an issue doing it earlier. I think the issue may be doing it at a time that's conducive to the applicant.
I think the applicant will take whatever he can throw.
Okay.
So we're talking December 2nd, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
you sent out a quick tickler?
I will send out a quick tickler, I will also inform her tomorrow,
What time are you thinking?
or Monday, actually.
8. Yeah, I know what you want.